Hi everyone and welcome to this session. I'm Helen Joy, the Candidate Network Manager at Inclusive Recruiting. It's lovely to see you all here. Fantastic turnout so far. Today we will be talking, as you know, all about interviews, preparing for your interviews. And this just goes beyond preparing. It's a session to really help you succeed in this process. So I'm really excited to learn all about this topic. As I mentioned, we've had so far, I can see we've had a fantastic turnout on this session, but we've also overall had a great response to this session. We've had over 70 people register for this webinar, so I'm sure we'll get more people joining us as we start. And just to start off with, I'll give you a short introduction into who we are as usual. So Inclusive Recruiting is a full service equity, diversity and inclusion consultancy dedicated to creating belonging in the workplace. We provide recruitment and executive search, inclusive training and workshops and EDI consultancy services. Alongside this, we have our own jobs board called Inclusive Hires. Our work is not only designed to support organizations, but also individuals to drive and lead change when it comes to ED&I. And as part of supporting individuals, we are really passionate about helping underrepresented diverse talent to progress in the workplace. Hence, we have the Candidate Network, where we provide events, free events, job search support, mentoring, training, and coaching. If you're interested to learn more or would like to register to join the network, please get in touch with me or visit the Candidate Zone page on our website. Moving on, I'd like to introduce you to our presenters, and I'm really pleased, I'm very excited to be sharing this space with two other people who just have amazing energy and passion for the EDI space and supporting early careers talent. Helen and Lola, the co-founders of the Talent Bridge, are here to present, as I mentioned. So let's get started. Over to you, Helen and Lola.
Hello, thank you for having us, Halima. It's lovely to be here. So today we are going to be talking about interview strategies for increased success. So this is how do you make sure that you make the very best of that opportunity to be in front of businesses. Lola.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming and attending this session. Just to give you a quick overview of what we'll be going through. So obviously interview strategies for success. We're going to share with you what we call our knowledge nuggets, and these are pieces of information you can go away and implement as you prepare for your interviews, successful interviews no less. Please do feel free to make notes. As I said, these are nuggets that are definitely going to be enhancing your experience and helping you succeed at your interviews. There is a dedicated Q&A segment at the end, but if you have a burning question that relates to a particular slide, please do place it in the Q&A chat function. And also, whilst we are virtual, we do aim to have some interaction throughout the course of this webinar. So also place your responses inside the chat function, or if you wish to, do feel free to come off mute and respond.
Fantastic. So just to give you a little bit of information about ourselves, I'm Helen, and I spent 15 years in the recruitment industry. So working right there on the front line, recruiting for temporary roles as well as for permanent roles, and dealing with clients from across all sorts of different industries. And my passion at that point was around getting mum returners into work and college and school leavers into work. So giving them as much support as possible, because quite often they would find it a bit of a challenge to get back into the workplace as well. And back in 2021, Laura and I set up the Talent Bridge Inc., which is all about bridging the talent gap between young people, early career starters, and the professional environments that they're in. And the Inc. is also important to us because that's very much around making sure that it's really, really inclusive, and we're bringing people from every single community and sector and area into the workplace.
Excellent, thanks Helen. So my name is Lola Jide. I'm an early career strategist, which means I help support talent, entry talent and rising talent gain career clarity and confidence at the very early stages of their career. But before establishing the Talent Bridge Inc. with my wonderful business partner, Helen, my corporate career spanned 20 years as a senior business manager and global training lead within the investment banking industry. But during that time, my side of the desk role was always mentoring and coaching entry talent. And after taking a number of entry talent employees under my wing, I found that this was really and truly my calling and my passion. And I wanted to enter into this space full time, because for me, it's very important to ensure that once you enter, you've got your ideal job, that you're just not left to sink, but you're able to flourish and really establish your career with confidence and with clarity. So that's me in a nutshell. Okay, so the focus points that we'll be covering, we've segmented them out into the 3 Ps. So we've got preparation, what you need to do before you actually go on your interview. We've got practice, so literally where it says practice, what you need to do to ensure that you show up prepared and ready to knock it out of the park for your interview. And personable, because one thing that is very important to understand is when you actually turn up for the interview, you've been selected because you meet all the information on paper, they've seen your CV, they're impressed. And then at the interview, you have to bring your personality into it even. And that's where the personal aspect comes in. So we'll be helping you to ensure that you show up and you display your personality at the interview itself. As we said, there is a Q&A segment at the end, so please don't hold back and be sure to put your questions in either the comment box, the chat box, or you can ask them at the end of the session.
Fantastic. So the first place to start is understanding what it is that employers want from those interviews, because when we're looking for a job, quite often we see that interview as this big scary thing that we've got to get over, that we've got to get through. And actually, if you think about it from where the employer is coming from and think about what do they want to get out of it, it really helps you put that into perspective and recognize what that means you need to bring along to that interview. Because honestly, interviews and recruiting cost businesses lots and lots of money. They're really, really expensive. If they've got vacancies to fill, they need to recruit people as soon as possible, because having empty desks or empty roles in a business actually does cost money. And what they want to know is that they're going out there to the marketplace and they're getting the best candidate who is available in the market. They want to get the very, very best people. And what's even better now is that they're not even looking just in their locality. They're not just looking for people that can make it to their business place. For a lot of businesses now, they've really, really broadened the reach of where they can look and the kind of people that they can bring on board. But fundamentally, what they want is the very best people out there with skills that they're looking for at that time to build their business. So that's their main function, is bringing in the best people. And the interview is just one tiny stage of that. And in that interview, what they want to do is find out as much about you as they possibly can. They want to know what you're good at, what your strengths are, what skills you're bringing, and effectively what you're going to bring into that business to help make their business better. And they want to know that you've researched, they want to know that you understand their business, they want to know that you've thought about their industry, and that actually you're going to commit to being there and being a part of that business. Because again, every organisation spends between 50 and 75% on their people. They're the biggest cost to every business. And even all these big technological businesses, the overarching cost comes from the people. So it's really, really important that they actually get that right. And an interview, when you think about it, is anything between half an hour and 45 minutes. So they're going to ask a lot of questions that are going to seem quite deep, quite thorough, and potentially quite scary from the perspective of somebody sitting there on the other end of them. But they want you to be successful. They don't want to have to interview hundreds and hundreds of people. They want, ideally, every employer is looking to potentially fill a vacancy for between 3 and 5 interviews to save them money and to make sure that they're doing things right. So that's why when they're working with people like Halima, to make sure that they're getting the right CVs and the right people in front of them. But what we've got to remember is that an interview is a two-way process. It's not just about them. It's also about you, because you need to make sure that you know as much as you possibly can about them. You want to make sure that this is a place that you want to work in, because there's nothing worse than getting offered a job, starting and finding that actually it's really not somewhere you want to be, because nobody wants to bounce from job to job. So what you've got to remember is, what's your purpose for going to that interview? A, it's to impress them. B, it's to make sure that they want to choose you. But it's also for you to factor in things that are important to you. So who are the people that work there? Do the people that work there actually feel like people that I want to spend a big part of my day with? Are they people that I want to engage with? Do you want to be a part of that organisation? And the biggest thing for me is making sure that their insides match their outsides, because businesses, the advent of marketing, it's really, really easy to give off this impression of an amazing place to work. And there's been so many instances where actually places have had this great reputation, but then when people have looked underneath and got inside there, actually it doesn't match. So this is your opportunity to make sure that what you see is actually what you're going to get when you're in there. So don't forget, there's two sides to that interview. It's not just about them.
Thanks, Helen. So in terms of preparation, we're going to cover research. So what do you need to know? As Helen said, you're going there to obviously impress, and you're also going there to do your own investigation as to whether or not this is an organization that you want to work for as well. So these are some of the key points that you need to know before you actually go to the interview. So mission, values, and goals. Now, you may think, why is it important that you understand about their mission, their values, and their goals? You need to demonstrate, and all of these aspects here are things that will demonstrate to your interviewer that you have done your research, that you're interested in not just the role, but the organization. And what that does, it demonstrates that you see yourself, you see a career for yourself within that organization. You see longevity there. So it's not a stopgap job. It's a job that you want to progress and you want to grow into within that organization. So understanding their mission, you need to see what is it they aim to do. What's their objective as an organization? Because you can ask questions to that during the interview. Their values. Values are always important. You have to understand what their values are, number one. And number two, you have to be comfortable that their values align with your values. And I'll tell you a reason why. If your values are misaligned to the organization, you will not last long there, because you'll be acting against your values. So a quick scenario would be, if your values were equity, social justice, and let's say financial freedom, you then, and you were a marketer, you then went for a job as a marketer for a payday loan company. Nothing against payday loan companies, but they could sit against your values. Okay, and in that space, what would happen is you will start getting uncomfortable and you'll not be performing at your optimum best. So it's very important to understand the values, because particularly now in today's climate, the values aren't just pretty words they put on the board in the boardroom or in the foyer of their building. They could actually be incorporated into how you are assessed in your mid-year and end-year reviews as an employee. So it's important to understand the values. And obviously their goals. What is it they're looking to achieve? Clearly, you have to understand their services and products. What is it that they are offering? What is the market like in which they're offering it? What is their core USP? USP, as I'm sure you're aware, is their unique selling point. So what is their unique selling point? What is it that makes them stand out from their competitors? And how are they strengthening that USP? So for example, if you wanted to work within the retail banking sector, and you went for a job at Metro, you could say one of their USP is they are a dog-friendly employer. You can bring your dog to work with you if you so desire. Also the fact that they open on a Sunday. So they have USPs that are unique to that particular retail bank. And it's for you to understand that, because again, it shows you have an interest in the organization. Who are their client base? Who do they aim to, who are they aiming to serve? Who are they aiming to either sell their services or their products to? Their core competitors and placement, where are they? Who are their 5 top competitors? And where are they placed within their competitors' placement? Are they number 1? Are they about to get knocked off number 1? Has there been some recent innovations that is challenging their position or that is improving their competitors' position? Core figures within their organization. Who's the CEO? Who's the chief financial officer? And it's not that you're going to get quizzed on this when you go for an interview, but if there's been something in the press about the CFO, the CEO, and you know their name, and let's say your interviewer references that within the interview, you can say, oh yes, I heard the CEO, I heard you got a new CEO who came from this previous organization. It shows again, you are knowledgeable about the organization. Industry insights, as I said before, have there been any new innovations? Has there been, have new disruptors entered into their particular industry? How are they coping with that, with those new disruptors? What is their comeback? How do they intend to progress? What are they doing for new innovations? It's important you're able to talk not about just about where they are currently, but where as an organization they aim to get to. Because what you're able to do then is feed in to how you can support them getting there. What value add are you bringing to help them achieve their goals? What value add are you bringing to ensure that they maintain their place in the industry? And again, organization news. Have they opened up new branches? Have they discontinued some lines? What is the reasoning behind discontinuing those lines? Again, you are showing your awareness of where they are, not just your role, but the whole organization. And what that does, it shows that you have a very good grasp of the organization, where it is at the moment, where it wants to get to, and also more importantly, how you're going to help them get there. Because ultimately, like I said in the beginning, your CV has got you through the door. Now you need to demonstrate that whilst you could be the right person on paper, are you the right person in person, as it were? And this is where you can demonstrate that. And last but not least, who is coming to the interview? So is it a panel interview? Is it a case whereby you're being interviewed by more than one person? Who are the people that are interviewing you? Is it your line manager? Is it HR? Is it the head of marketing? Find out who these people are. I don't mean start stalking them on every single social media channel possible, because that can be a bit scary, clearly. But you can obviously go on LinkedIn. You can go on LinkedIn and find out, okay, this is where they are. This is where they've worked before. I've interviewed someone who managed to make a connection with me simply because they searched who I was on LinkedIn and they found out we had a few mutual connections and we actually worked at a previous investment bank together, albeit in different departments. But that built somewhat of a connection. So do your research and make sure you're prepared. Okay, so where do you find the information? You've got company websites, which is standard. So you're not going to get any trade secrets on the company website. That's what they want the world to see. But it will show you the who's who. So about us, it will show you their values, their missions, their goal, the key figures in the organization. You will definitely get that from the company website. You may also, there's usually a section that has news, and that will show all the latest developments within the company as well. Companies House is a little known secret, that not everyone utilizes to its full potential. So in Companies House, you will find out where they're registered. You can even look at their finances. So you can see that, okay, you made a bit of a loss last year. Not something to obviously bring up in the interviews, but it's for you to be aware and maybe support some of your arguments, such as, what new innovations are you bringing to the market? Industry publications is also a good one. You can go to your local library. I'm not suggesting that you subscribe, excuse me, you subscribe to very expensive industry publications, but your local library should have them. Google, everyone loves Google and other search engines as well, clearly. We're not being sponsored by Google just yet, no. But you can go to Google and you can look at information that may not be on their company website. Social media, what is their LinkedIn company page saying? Are they on Instagram? Are they on TikTok? This is where you can get a real insight into their culture as well on their social media. It's a bit more relaxed. Again, Glassdoor is another very, very good site. Excuse me, is another very good site, because what you get there is an insight into what employees are saying about their organization. And again, that will help you make an information, as Helen alluded to earlier. You're also interviewing them. So the employees give ratings, as in it's a good place to work. They have a magnificent culture, maybe down to the department that, is really, really good. So it really gives you a thorough insight. The address for Glassdoor, Toby, you can Google it. And if you just put Glassdoor into Google, you'll get the website address, and you don't need to subscribe. You can just put in all hell Google for sure, or Yahoo, or any other search engine. Industry updates, again, what's happening within the industry. And last but not least, ask your recruiter. Your recruiter wants you to get this job, obviously because they're supporting you, and not all organizations are wonderful as inclusive recruiting, but they also want you to get the job, and they may have some insight about the recruiter that you may not have, about the employer that you may not have. So do feel free to ask your recruiter. Again, get as much insight as you possibly can. Okay, so PVP. Now this is a term that possibly you haven't heard of, and I'll tell you what it stands for. PVP is your personal value proposition. And this is where you demonstrate how you can add your strengths. So the components of your PVP are your strengths, your values, your alignment to the organization, but also your alignment to the role. So it's very important that you demonstrate this at the interview. They want to know your strengths. Not all your strengths are demonstrated on your CV, but it's for you to really make the job easy for them. And when I say make the interviewer's job easy for them, it's a case of, why would you not want to employ me? Literally, that's when you leave, you want them, you've made the job so easy for them to say that is the person for the role. So when you demonstrate your strengths, you do it in such a way it applies to the role that you are going for. So if you know you're going to be part of a team, you demonstrate how you are such a wonderful team player. And I know Helen's going to share some transferable skills that you can apply to your strengths a bit later. So you demonstrate your strengths, and you give examples of how you have utilized your strengths in the past. Again, you demonstrate your values. And like I said before, it's very important that there's value alignment. So if you are going to refer back to that previous example, if your values are equity, social justice, financial freedom, and you're going to work for a financial literacy organization, for example, that is very clear for them to see there is good value alignment there. And you can speak to that. You can say, part-time or volunteer. From a volunteer perspective, I work for an organization that teach financial literacy to young adults. Okay, so clearly demonstrate your values for them to see they're aligned to the organization. Again, alignment to the organization. Why is it you want to work for this organization? And it's no good to say, well, I think it's just a great organization to work for. No, we need a bit more than that. Why do you think it's a great organization to work for? and alignment to the role. Again, how do your strengths help you be the perfect candidate for this role? So this is your opportunity to demonstrate this during your personal value proposition. And I say, when I talk about PVP, if you think of it like this, if you're in an elevator with the CEO of the organization of your ideal company, and they had a role for, let's say, a marketer in their department, what would you say within 1 minute to really demonstrate that? To really demonstrate you would be the perfect fit for their organization. So I know this is being recorded, but what I would ask you to do is just take a screenshot of this, and after the session, start thinking, maybe not alignment to the organization or alignment to the role if you haven't got an interview coming up, but definitely start thinking about your strengths and your values and how you can work this into your PVP. Because you will have to find the opportunity to convey your PVP in an interview. The interviewer is not going to say to you, oh, Toby, what's your PVP? That's not going to happen. So you have to find the right occasion to demonstrate that and make sure that it's fluid.
Fantastic. So, and once you've actually got that that PVP, you know, you've done your research, you know exactly why it is that you're applying for this job, then this is where you actually start to need to do some practice now. So in terms of getting that practice in there, just that preparation part is about getting that, checking your travel. If you're actually going to visit a client, it's really, really important, or to visit a client, to going for an interview, it's really important that you know where you're going if you actually have to physically get there. So checking if you have to get trains, if you have to get buses, if you're driving, if you're cycling, how long is that going to take? Is there parking? How often do the buses run? Because actually thinking about checking those travel arrangements are, if this is something you're going to have to do on a regular basis, you need to know that it's actually something that you can do regularly without adding too much additional stress and pressure to your actual day. If it's going to be a virtual interview, it's really, really important that you check the technology. When you are sent a link through with that information, check whether you have to download systems, check whether you have to download a particular portal. Is it a Zoom one? Is it a Google Meet? Is it a Teams one? Do they have their own bespoke system that you might need to actually have installed on your computer beforehand? So make sure that you've actually got all of that done, sorted and ready. And then once you know exactly where you're going and how you're actually going to be presenting to these people, it's very much then about practice answering the questions. There are going to be, and we're going to touch in a minute about some of the key questions that they're going to do, but actually practice answering them and get someone else to ask the questions for you. Get someone else to sit there, ask them in the same way and sit formally opposite them, and actually practice what that feels like. Because some of these questions are not questions that we would come across and would answer on a normal day. They're not things that we're constantly talking about. The more interviews you do, the more practice you get at this and the more comfortable you feel answering these questions. If it's going to be a virtual interview, practice doing it into the mirror, practice doing it. You can get most of the online things like this, I'm sorry, menopause moment there, can't actually remember what so most things like Zoom and Google, things like that, you can actually just go in there on your own and you can record it. So you can go in there and you can record yourself answering those questions so you can see what you look like. You can see what your thinking face looks like. You can see what your confused face looks like. But it just gives you the opportunity to kind of check, am I sitting upright? Am I sitting in a place where what's behind me, if I can't blur my screen, doesn't actually give the wrong impression of me? So all of those things. But just when we talk about the questions later, again, take a screenshot and think about what are your answers to be and what are the best answers that show you in the very best light. And what's key to also knowing the answers to those questions is understanding your story. And Lola's going to talk to you about your narrative in a second, but really be comfortable, be confident and know why you're there, know what your purpose is around wanting to apply for that job and how you've got to where you are now. Because that's as important to an employer as the future is. They want to know what steps you've taken, how you've got to where you are, and have a backup plan. If you are doing it online, make sure that you've got the phone number of the person that you're being interviewed by or somebody else you can contact. Make sure that your website is, your connection isn't actually going to be disrupted. And if it is, make sure that you've got a phone that you can use, something else that maybe you can tether to. Don't do it in a cafe if you can help it, just because the distraction of the background noise can be so difficult. But also think about, if you're going by train, know which train you're going to get, or by bus, know which one you're going to get, and make sure you take the one before the one you need, because if there's any cancellations or delays or anything like that, you don't want to be late. There's nothing worse than turning up stressed and flustered and all uncomfortable. If you're cycling or driving, make sure you know where to park, and if you can't park there, that you've got an alternative in there. So basically all of that preparation is just getting all of those things planned, ready, and double checked.
And Helen, just before we move on quickly, Jackie's got, how soon would you dial in for a virtual interview?
I would say at least 5 minutes, maybe 5 to 10, because part of that is about getting yourself mentally ready. Because if you turn up for an interview in person, you're not going to turn up, you're going to be 10, 15 minutes early anyway. And that just gives you time to calm down and settle. So I would definitely say between 10 minutes, definitely no later than 5, just in case you do need to, excuse me, to download something that you weren't aware of.
Okay, thanks, Helen. So yes, I'm going to talk to you about your narrative. So what narrative do you want to share with the interviewer? That's something for you to really think about prior to your interview and as you're in your practice stage. So I would say pick 4 key points you want to include in your narrative that adds value to the interview. So not 4 random points, but 4 points that actually will add value to your interview. And I'm going to walk you through a scenario, and there'll be a bit of a question at the end. So the scenario is, Carl's going for an interview for a developer role in an education tech company. Interviewer is a former teacher who is now the content director for the organization. He walks in the interview room with his coffee and is wearing Arsenal socks. So Carl's first degree is from the University of Nairobi, Kenya, and his master's is from the University of Westminster, London. His parents are coffee farmers in rural Kenya. He supports Arsenal and has met Bukayo Saka 5 times. As part of his first degree, he developed an education app that enabled children in remote locations to take termly assessments online during COVID-19. Whilst it was initially a free app, due to its success, Kyle sought corporate sponsorship to enable further strategic development of the app. Kyle then created the East Africa Technology for Education Hub, where tech entrepreneurs share latest technology that can be utilized to improve education across the region. Okay, so what's 4 points? And this is the interactive part. So either put your answers in the chat or feel free to take yourself off mute and share your responses. So, and I've done some for you. So here's one I've done earlier. So what 4 points do you think Carl should include in his narrative and why? So number 1, as you can see, is already in there, but you can also disagree with this. Okay, and if you need me to read out all the points again, do let me know. So number 1 that's in there is, part of his first degree, he developed an education app that enabled children in more locations to take assessments online during COVID-19. Now, if you feel that's a relevant point to add, you can put a 1 in the comments. Okay, 2 is, whilst it was initially a free app, due to its success, Carl sought corporate sponsorship deals to enable further strategic development of the app. And the 3rd point is, created the East Africa Technology for Education Hub, where tech entrepreneurs share latest technology that can be utilized to improve education across the region. So now there's a 4th point that could be added. What do you think that 4th point should be? Any suggestions? His skills, thank you, Claudette. Abby, the connection between, let's see what she put down. Oops. Okay, the connection between the interview and the Arsenal socks. Okay, good point. Thank you. Anyone else? For how can he bring value to the new organization? Thank you, Santanu. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to go with what has been put in the comments. So thank you, those who contributed. So someone said, Claudette, you said skills, great. His skills ultimately should be on his CV. So the point of your narrative is sharing things that are not on your CV, information that is not immediately visible, but will add value to the interview. Santini, you said, how can he bring value to the new organization? Very good. So the fact of his previous experience, he can definitely speak to that. And I would say, although it sounds, Sergi said for IPO London Exchange, yes, very good. I would definitely go with, and Priscilla said what he can bring and what the organization can bring. So I would definitely say that his experience, talking through his narrative and sharing his story of what he's done, he's fully demonstrating how he is like top tier when it comes to educational technology, and what he has done has demonstrated, he's almost got a blueprint of the value that he can bring. And I would be tempted to go with Abby's suggestion about the Arsenal socks. And the reason for that is because you're then building a personable connection. As Helen alluded to previously, you need to think, can I work with this person 5 days a week, be it virtual, hybrid, or face-to-face? And that same thought is in your interviewer's mind as well. So it's really key that you build where you can, and it's not always possible, where you see an opportunity to build a personable connection, that you utilize it, because that really can help. Okay, thank you. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense to everyone. And if not, we can cover it off in the Q&A. What I would like you to do here is just take a screenshot of this slide and start thinking about the 4 key points that you would want to put into your narrative that will add value to your interview. And it may be different for different interviews, clearly, but you should always go in as part of your preparation, having your narrative fully prepared.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, and alongside that narrative is also that bit about those transferable skills, because quite often we do find that we forget how many things that we already are really good at, and we don't, because we don't necessarily do them in that work environment, we don't always think about how you can translate those across. Sorry, excuse my throat. Oh. So key skills that employers are looking for in 2023 are teamwork or collaboration. The two things can be under both names. Decision making, adaptability, communication, and relationship management. So they're the main things that people are looking for when they're bringing people into their business. And sometimes people look at those skills and worry that they can't actually give an example of where they use that. So before you go to an interview, and part of the preparation is thinking about of those skills, and it might not necessarily be those 5 skills, but if they've listed specific skills they're looking for, just thinking about how can I evidence that skill. It might not necessarily be in a work environment, but how can I actually use that from somewhere else? And this is where, when we work with young people who may not have work experience, it's getting them to think about where and when they do that. So for example here, so again, feel free to take a screenshot of this. You know, if for teamwork, if you play sports, you are showing teamwork every single time that you actually turn up there. If you train twice a week and play regular matches across the city, then what that's showing is evidence of your teamwork. You don't want to let those people down. You're committed to ensuring that success for everybody, and actually understand what you bring and how important you are. And it shows your reliability as well, which is always a massive bonus from an employer's perspective. Thinking about decision making as well. So might be that in a house share, nobody actually wants to look after the responsibility for the bills because that's boring and stressful and all those other things. But actually, if you are the person who looks after that, what you're doing is checking that entire market to make sure that you're getting the best price that you can. So you're having to make decisions, and you're deciding, do I stay with this provider, or do I move and change to a different one for everybody's benefit? And again, that shows that responsibility, shows that you can make fact-based decisions and actually understand the need for gathering information and making decisions based on that, rather than just making quick off-the-cuff decisions. So again, a really good example of what you do at home that can translate across to actually in the workplace. And adaptability, again, one of the massive skills people are looking for. Could be a case that exams, your computer system changed from the university changed the system, and people lost work. And this happens more than you even want to think about knowing in the workplace. So, but it might be that you'd saved yours. So actually you were just able to upload it really easily. So again, what you're saying is you're also not just adaptable and can move across systems, but that you're well organized, prepared, and can adapt to changing priorities without too much stress. So just think about, what is that skill and how can I possibly evidence this in a work environment? How can I show that this relates across? And so again, matching the skills that they're looking for and matching what you can do. Excuse me. So, as we said earlier, some of the key questions that you may get asked, and there'll definitely be questions around those skills, but these again are some of the key questions that are going to be asked within your interview. So as Lola alluded to earlier, what are your strengths? And if you've thought about that personal value proposition, you will know exactly what your key strengths are. And what you can try and do is match those to the elements of the role as well. So thinking about what are the things I'm really, really good at, and how do they fit with this particular role? They're going to ask what you're going to bring to the business. They want to know how you're going to add value, and they're going to want to know what you can bring additionally, where you're going to provide value for them and make them look good, because that's what interviewers and that's what bosses want, let's face it. They're also going to want to know why you want this job. And just saying, because I need a job, is never going to be a powerful enough answer. They want to know that you've done the research. They want to know that you understand the business, that you understand where you're going to bring value, why it fits with your values, and that it's not just about because I need to pay my rent. Now, there may well be an element of that. None of us works for free, but it's about understanding how you bring stuff and add value for them. What do you know about the business and industry? Again, if you've done your research, this is a really, really easy question to answer. And they're going to want to hear things that aren't the top answers on Google. If you Google that business and the top 3 answers are the things that everybody's going to be saying, because you're showing that you're more thorough, that you want it more, that you've actually put more time and effort into there. They're always going to know what your biggest achievement is. And again, if you can't think of a work-based one, don't worry, think about something from your personal life. Think about whether you've something like you, again, within a team where you've achieved some kind of recognition for that. If you are part of a community volunteering scheme, it might be something that you've done in college or university. But think about the thing that you're most proud of. Because what that again shows them is not just how you are in the workplace, but it shows them the kind of person you are. And it really, really can add strength to where you're saying these are my strengths and my values, because what you're doing again is evidencing those and proving that that's the person that you are. And this is always my favorite one, is why should we offer you this role? Again, if you've done your research, these questions are all really, really easy to answer. And you should almost be wanting them to ask these questions. And if they don't ask you these questions, when they ask you if you've got any questions at the end, you could turn around and say, well, my question is, if these are my strengths, why wouldn't you offer me this role as well? But it's really that part of thinking about, if you've done your research, these are all really, really easy questions to answer.
Right. Okay. So people by people. So in this segment, it's like I said, this is the last segment about, being personable. You need to demonstrate your personality, because that's what they really, as well as demonstrating your value add, your strengths, your values, and everything else, this is where they're going to assess, can I actually work with this person 5 days a week? Are they the value add we need within this organization? So first and foremost, whilst you may be nervous, channel that nervous energy into excitement. Not, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this job. I don't know if I'm the right person for this job. No, channel it into excitement. I really want this job. Just, think about working for this organization. It aligns with my values. I can see myself really adding value, particularly within the marketing team. Channel it into that area. So relax. Don't go in there like a nervous wreck. It doesn't work well. So try as much as possible as you can to relax before you go into the interview. And that may mean before, whether it's a virtual one, take time just to compose yourself, talk to yourself online so you're relaxed, so you don't get tongue-tied. As Helen said, whatever technology they are using for virtual interviews, you have time to go on 10 minutes beforehand and just talk. Get out all your nerves. It really does work, trust me. Get out all your nerves by just having a conversation with yourself. Literally hype yourself up before the interview. So you're not there, the lights go on, the person appears and you're tongue-tied. Release all that nervous energy. So by the time you enter even to the physical room or the virtual room, you are nice and relaxed. And if it's a face-to-face, go to a coffee shop 30 minutes before, relax yourself, take your deep breaths, do what you need to do, and then enter the building 10 minutes before. So make sure you are relaxed. Second one is smile. Smile actually reduces tension within your body. And also, if the interviewer is having a bit of a stressful morning, stressful afternoon, they could be coming in a bit flustered. And it could actually be the first time that they've interviewed someone, so they also could be a bit nervous. Not everyone's a seasoned interviewer. So if you're smiling, they're smiling, it builds a connection, it helps you both to relax. So smile as much as you can. Ask questions. That shows that you are interested. Like literally make sure you have 10 questions, because it is very possible that before, during the interview, they do answer questions that you may have. That's fine. But if you've got a decent enough list, and that's why I say 10, there will be some questions on there that they wouldn't have answered. So these are the questions that you can then ask. Lastly, be you. So there's a lot of talk about be your authentic self. And I caveat that with be your best professional authentic self. Okay, because we all know we work, we maneuver, we socialize in different circles. And as fully grown adults, the way in which I interact with, let's say, my mum and my senior aunties is not the same way I interact with my friends. The way I interact with my friends is not the same way I interact with my clients. It's still me, but I adjust myself to always show up as my best authentic self within that situation. So be you, so they get a sense of your personality. Also, obviously, be mindful you're going for an interview. You're not going to meet friends for drinks, okay?
Excuse me. And lovely, and just very conscious of time, so I think we just whip through this one quite quickly. It's a check in and check out, and this is very much a Lola phrase, which I absolutely love, which is making sure that not just are you kind of checking in and being there and giving your very, very best, but you're also making sure that you're checking them out as well, that you've got your questions, you've covered all of those bases, and it's okay to actually have your notes. It's okay to kind of have notes in front of you and say, I've got some questions, I've got some notes, and reinforce that, just that whole sense of I've done my research, I'm prepared for this, and I've come here to interview you as much as you're here to interview me. Anything else briefly to add to that, Ola, before we?
The only other thing I would say is that when you're asking questions, like I say, check in and check out, good questions to ask the interviewer is, how has their journey been within the organization? How are the values lived through the organization. So again, that demonstrates that you see longevity within this role, and it's not just a stopgap till you get the next best thing. Also, how's your day been? You know, what's the rest of your day like? And I'm not asking you to say, you know, where do you go for dinner, but build that familiarity and that personable traits that can come out and support you with your successful interview.
And the other question there that I always love, Lola, and I think this is one that you gave me as well, which is how many people like me are in senior roles? Because I think that tells you an awful lot about that organisation as well. Are you going to be supported, and are you going to be able to have sort of mentors that understand the journey that you're going to take through that organisation as well?
Yeah, that's a good one.